Hello and welcome to the Relax, It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you, Wendy?
I'm good. I was just asking about Pittsburgh. You're back in Pittsburgh. How's it feeling?
We are. It's feeling good. We are, to be totally transparent, we're still in that transition. So I'm in Pittsburgh a lot. Yana and the kids are trying to get the house packed up in Michigan. So it's a bit chaotic, but feels good to be back in the Berg. You know, I know your Philly affiliations. We won't, talk about sports there. Okay. We'll let you guys have a couple Super Bowls, but
Thanks.
we'll just,
We've got a while to go to catch up to you guys. But
That's right. That's right.
You got to start somewhere.
That's right. But I think the exciting part of this time of the year is the spring. The kids were at the new house here in Pittsburgh, and they were playing in the woods this past weekend, and reminded me a lot of my childhood and that feeling in spring, Wendy, when you get to go outside again and you don't need to wear like 8 layers of clothes. And
right.
Such a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. And if the sun's out, you're like, oh, I don't even need this light jacket.
That's right. Yeah, you don't need anything. And I am an early shorts wearer, right? We cross over like 55 and I'll wear shorts. I
can see that
that's
about
fine.
you.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we going to be talking about today, Shorty?
Spring. Spring cleaning, right, Wendy?
You are right. That is exactly what we're talking about.
We need to talk about spring cleaning. So much like maybe you're cleaning up the yard this time of the year, cleaning up the house because you're able to get out of it now. So maybe things got a little bit of dust on them. Maybe we got in some bad habits over the winter too. So we're trying to get moving a little bit more. Same thing with our finances. So today we're going to cover 5 tips for a fresh start this spring. So let's get started out. Let's get prepared for summer when maybe we're on vacation and not paying attention to our finances that much. Let's get everything cleaned up here in the spring.
All right. Sounds good. So where do we start?
One that we've talked about before, Wendy, and we will go back to cleaning up old retirement accounts. We see it all the time. People come into our office and they take their financial junk drawer, dump it out on the table. They're like, I don't know why I got all this stuff, right? We collect things over time. So if we've worked for multiple employers, maybe we had a small 401k at a company we worked for many years ago, and it wasn't a top priority, right? We get the statement, we kind of look at it, it's up, down, sideways, put it in a file, and ignore it. This is a good time of the year to look through all those things again. Maybe in those old retirement plans, you have particularly high fees, especially if it was a smaller employer. Maybe that plan's very expensive. Maybe you can consolidate that into another plan to reduce the fees. I think in our expertise, we see a lot of overlap many times. So people are owning the same things in 8 different places. There's no advantage to having that additional account. It's one more thing to keep track of. Once you're retired, too, if we can simplify things, we can spend more time hiking in the woods or, going to the beach or doing something fun. So it's a good time to clean up those old retirement accounts. If it is an old 401k, maybe there's limited options within that plan as well. We've seen a lot now of the cash or money market options in old 401ks might not be yielding as much as you could get on the open marketplace. So maybe combining that with another IRA you have or doing an IRA rollover might not only save you in fees, might get you a little bit more yield within the portfolio as well.
All right. So we're done now, right? We can put away the vacuum cleaner?
We can put away the vacuum cleaner. I think reevaluating that, making a list of them. Many times people kind of lose track. So if you have one consolidated place where you're looking at them, you can identify those guys pretty easily. If you're working with a financial advisor, that's something that can help you kind of clean up. Pete was meeting with a client today that had an old IRA with about $2,000 in it. And they're like, I don't even know what's in there. Can we combine that? Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Just clean it up, make it a little bit easier for you to manage and make sure it's coordinated with the rest of your portfolio.
All right. I like it.
one step above that, let's clean up the whole financial plan there, Wendy. So we need to review. Again, spring is a good time. We're kind of looking forward to maybe those fun days of summer where we eat too many calories, but we also burn a couple more. So
there you go.
If we're going on vacation, getting ice cream cones, all that fun stuff, let's make sure we have enough income, right? Let's make sure we have enough money coming in. I think this has been top of mind for a lot of folks is maybe their savings accounts, the yields are starting to decline a little bit more. Maybe a little bit of income uncertainty as government layoffs have kind of come into play. And there might be some uncertainty there. You know, we talk about the 3 buckets all the time, but let's make sure that our income bucket is full. If our income bucket, we're targeting 6 to 10 years worth of income, and we haven't reviewed our financial plan in 2 years, guess what? We might only be at 4 to 8 years now, right? So let's update that plan. Let's make sure that we're in good shape there. Let's also review the tax efficiency of our withdrawals, right? Maybe the market's been up, little rocky here lately, but up overall over the last group of years. Maybe we need to look at that tax efficiency. Maybe we have a lot of growth in one tax type of an account and not in another. So maybe we need to update that withdrawal strategy a little bit. Do you need more money, right? In income in general, inflation the last group of years has been higher. Have you adjusted the amount? If you're adding money onto credit cards or spending down savings too quick, you probably need some more income coming in. So let's readjust that. Let's update the financial plan to see where that puts you in the long term as well. Let's not wait, add up the credit card debt, start paying 20% interest, and then try to pay it off. Let's plan ahead to avoid that.
See, I finally learned that lesson. It took a long, long time, but I finally learned that lesson.
It is a tough one, right? I think when we first start working, it's very easy to see that paycheck as a play check, right? We just want to go do fun things. No one wants to save for retirement.
Boring.
Although I do have to say, I had a major personal victory this week. Yana was at the school for science fair, and Eli, our oldest son, he did a science project talking about mixing milk and vinegar to make plastic and the weight of the plastic and everything. But they had these little leprechauns, and one of the questions that was asked to all the students in the class is, if you found a pot of gold, what would you do with the money?
Okay.
Now, Eli's really into Legos. He likes Minecraft now. So, you know, Minecraft, Legos, right? He's an 8-year-old kid. No.
I'm aware of this stuff.
I want to put it in my college account.
What?
Yes, victory. His grandparents, my parents, will be relieved too, because that's less money they have to put in the 529.
Yeah,
right?
because you are constantly asking them for money, constantly.
For the benefit of their grandkids, right?
Right.
Better than plastic toys. So I'm glad that message has gone through to Eli. It was quite amusing to see that written out.
Well done.
But you know, he cited that he wants money in his college account because he wants to be smart. And I thought, okay, well, you know, that's good. You see the delayed gratification of, this is a future goal I need to save for.
Right.
You know, in retirement, that's a little bit different. We still want to be looking out into the future. And when we think of updating our plan, let's review some of our inflation assumptions as well, right? Inflation's a little bit more top of mind maybe than it was 5-6 years ago when we didn't really seem to have any inflation. Price of eggs are even higher now, Wendy. So
Yeah, I know.
Have you found an alternative or?
No, I stopped eating them.
Well, that's an alternative, right?
Yes. I think I found other sources of eating food.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, certainly. I went to the grocery store, almost no eggs, and the ones that were there were like $10. So
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's gold. I saw a meme that was, when we were kids, we used to throw eggs.
Could you imagine?
Now they're like gold, you know?
You're right. We did used to throw eggs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be so wrong now.
Yeah. I mean, that's like you need at least $1 billion trust fund to be throwing eggs, right? I mean, can't just be doing that. So, we need to review those inflation assumptions and maybe longevity as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you had health concerns, or through COVID, you were a little bit more concerned about general health. Are the assumptions in your financial plan still enough to cover for a long life? Or do we need to modify the other way too? Maybe your health has changed to the negative and we need to readjust the plan there, especially if you are married and there's an assumption of 2 Social Security checks coming in, or maybe there's a pension that decreases in payments. Let's factor those into the plan. That helps give us more security. So, second tip, clean up your financial plan. Next one, check on your investment risk. This has been top of mind for a lot of folks as the market's been a little rocky here. New administration's coming in, quickly changing a lot of things or erasing a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of concern in the markets. Businesses don't know how to move forward, right? They're unsure as to what that environment's going to look like over the long term. So the market's been reacting there. That being said, we might still have drift in the portfolio from the last few years. If you started out with a 60-40 portfolio, so 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, and the bonds haven't really grown all that much over the last group of years, but the stocks have taken off, it might now be closer to 70-30 or 75-25, where we're taking more risk unintentionally just by the growth of the portfolio. So we need to rebalance that risk. If we haven't revisited risk in a few years, guess what? You're a few years older now too, Wendy. So we might have the inverse effect that we're getting closer to retirement, or we're further along in retirement, and we may want to start de-risking a little bit more anyways. Maybe you're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe you say, hey, retirement's still 5 to 10 years out. I know that the market's a little bit rocky now, but I'm going to try to get a little bit more into the market while it is uncertain. So try to, take lemons, make lemonade. Reviewing that risk and making an intentional decision around that can help you a lot over the long term.
All right. So we have to reassess where we are, the drift that has happened, and how much we want to tolerate the volatility.
Yes. I think it's hard, right? Behaviorally, taking any loss hurts, right? We get about twice as much negative feelings to a loss as we do the positive feelings for a gain.
And that feels wrong. That just seems wrong, Josh. I'm just saying.
It seems wrong, or it feels wrong?
Both.
Yeah.
Feels wrong. Why does it have to be that way?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we might have heard, be patient with our investments, et cetera, et cetera. I think we work with clients a lot to set a proper timeline. So if we're invested in stocks, we know we shouldn't buy Amazon stock for our egg money on Sunday when we're going to go to the grocery store, right? Although we might be trying to catch up with the price of eggs, Amazon stock or whatever stock could be quite a bit lower than it was at the beginning of the week. We need a longer timeline for those investments.
Okay.
Watching it day to day can certainly be nauseating. Roughly 46% of the time the market goes down on a daily basis, and 54% of the time it goes up. If we zoom out of that picture, though, average returns over 10 years are about 10%. So if we look at that long-term perspective, our probabilities of earning money off of our investments are quite a bit higher. So reassessing that risk, part of that risk also could be stock concentration. We've had a lot of high-flying tech stocks the last group of years that have grown quite substantially. We want to be careful that those also haven't become too much of our portfolio, where if something happens with one individual stock, it could derail our total plan. For us, we advise clients to stick with 10% or less in one individual stock, otherwise that risk becomes too outsized, that if a company were to come into long-term financial problems, it might totally derail your retirement.
I gotcha. All right.
You got all that, Wendy? So are you adjusting the portfolio here as we're talking?
Oh, I have a lot of work to do. A lot of adjusting. I'm
Well,
getting out the furniture polish and the cloth.
Yeah. Get the cracked leather repaired on the couch from sitting on it all winter.
Yes.
I think another one that comes up a lot this time of the year is tax projections. So many times we file now and we get a refund or we don't get a refund. We have potentially some tax surprises as we go to file. Oh, hey, I didn't realize this, that, or the other. Sometimes that can be delayed. This time of the year, folks are getting their IRMA letters too, so adjustments in Medicare based on earned income 2 years ago. So let's do some tax planning and tax projections over the long term to help avoid those surprises in the future. As you get your tax return from the last year, it's good to kind of review what happened, right? It's like watching a game film, right?
Yeah.
As the Eagles were preparing to win the Super Bowl, they, I'm sure, spent a lot of time in the film room, right?
Yeah.
Studying the way Kansas City evaluates this, that, and the other, and trying to do that. Let's do the same with our taxes, right? Let's have a winning strategy for our taxes by reviewing what happened last year and think of how we can do it better in the future. Sometimes that's as simple as just reviewing and saying, hey, everything was good. Sometimes it's looking down the line and saying, hey, it was fantastic that I was in a low tax rate this year, but in the future, I'm going to get hit hard when my RMDs start or maybe a pension starts. Let's avoid that surprise by starting to pay a little bit more in taxes intentionally today. So filling up those tax brackets along the way. We've talked about that a lot in the past, but too many times we meet with folks and they sort of show us that, hey, my taxes are really low now. And then we show them, hey, your taxes are going to be really high in the future. So let's take proactive steps today rather than defaulting to a higher tax position in the future.
Yes, that would be most beneficial for everyone involved.
I think so. What do you think, Wendy? Eliminate all taxes? That seems wise, right?
Well, no, I mean, we need stuff. I mean, we need roads and,
Agree.
libraries and, there's a few things that we could use taxes for.
I think so, too. Yeah. We certainly want to pay our fair share, but not overpay.
Right.
I think balancing out by having that long-term tax plan, maybe it's doing some Roth conversions in the next year. This can also pair well with the market volatility. So if we own a stock that we believe is valued at $100, but there's a shock in the market and it goes down to $80, we could pay tax on the $80, move it from an IRA to a Roth IRA. And as that stock rebounds, well, now it's tax-free. So if it's a $100 valuation and it rebounds to that, great. We can execute that when the market's down and pay a little less in taxes moving it over. So, when we're thinking about this spring cleaning, think about these 5 things, but sometimes they all come together as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else, Wendy.
Yeah. Ideally.
We certainly hope so. Can't guarantee that, but intentionally thinking ahead can help us, right? If you knew eggs were going to be this high priced, you could have bought egg futures, Wendy, and you could have levelized the price of eggs throughout your life so you could maintain eating eggs even in these times of extreme egg prices, right?
I was not smart about it. No. I mean, if I could stock up on eggs, I would, because that's what I've done with everything else.
But they they only last so long, right?
Right. Yes.
They
like
do have a
saving
shelf
milk.
life. Yeah. There are people that freeze milk. That's a thing to preserve it.
That seems weird.
I would agree. Not a strategy that I would do, but I guess to me better than powdered milk.
Yes, I agree.
Do you ever use the powdered eggs, or is that an unacceptable alternative?
Powdered eggs?
Yeah, they like powdered eggs. You add water. It's like I think a lot of those continental breakfasts that you get are some sort of over.
No.
No,
No.
it doesn't. What about the
I've
egg
done like
beaters?
the liquid egg whites before.
Okay.
But I assume they've gone up as well.
Okay. Yeah, still not a winning strategy for reducing prices.
But thank you for worrying about me.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. We gotta address these big concerns, these hard hitting concerns in life.
I just had to go to other options at this point.
Fair enough.
Until the egg crisis is over.
The egg crisis of 2025. Fair enough. Well,
all right.
We will have more
else?
chickens soon. Last tip is, in looking at those updates, let's look at giving in a more advantageous way. So too many times we're meeting with folks and they didn't realize that they could do a QCD, or maybe in a bigger tax year, we could give ahead and utilize a donor advised fund. So Wendy, I know I've quizzed you on this, so I won't put you on the spot, but the QCD is a qualified charitable distribution that you can do out of your IRA starting at age 70 and a half. So most people, once they reach, maybe like 18, they're not really celebrating half birthdays, but 70 and a half is one that you can celebrate.
Okay.
By giving to charity more tax efficiently. So if it looks like you're going to have that good saver tax problem that we talked about on the last podcast, where your RMDs are going to push you into a higher tax bracket, although you're not forced to take money out of the IRA yet, we could use that for our charitable giving. So if you're giving a regular amount to the church or local animal shelter, or whatever the cause that you're passionate about, you can direct to the 501c3, the charity from your IRA, and not pay any taxes on it.
Right. And that's also not considered like the money that you received because you didn't receive it. You give
That's
it.
right. Yep.
Win-win.
The IRA is non-taxable until you distribute it. If you send it over to the charity, a non-taxable entity, it's not taxed. So great strategy there. And then we don't have to worry about the standard deduction. With the standard deduction being so high, many times we can't deduct our charitable giving. Mm-hmm. Now, if we have a really big tax year, we're trying to reduce taxes down, we might want to contribute many years ahead, and that's when we would utilize a donor advised fund. So thinking about that this year, maybe if you're retiring, or we've had some folks have stock options come due or other situations, maybe we look to give 5 to 6 years ahead. The donor advised fund allows us to contribute that money to the fund, get the tax deduction for this year, and then distribute those funds further on down the line. You can stretch that out as long as you want. So if you give only a small amount to a couple of charities each and every year, you might be able to set up for your whole retirement there. And any growth on that account, you can distribute to the charities as well. So sometimes we're able to give a lot more generously by utilizing those types of accounts.
And that makes us feel good.
I think so. I think being able to give more off of the same dollar is pretty impactful. If we think about it from the efficiency of withdrawing from that IRA, if you're in the 22% tax bracket and we take $100 out of an IRA to give it to charity, Uncle Sam's getting 22 cents that the charity is not. If we're able to give that direct to the charity, in theory, we could be giving 22 cents more in that scenario. So, or 22 cents on the dollar. So,
right. I got you.
Efficient. Yeah.
I got you.
$22 if it's $100.
Right. Yeah.
I see you checking my math over there, Wendy. You're like, that is not correct, Josh.
No.
I know you're supposed to be the numbers guy, but that's wrong, right?
It's a good thing I'm here.
I agree, Wendy.
So
So
I'm writing down a list. Tell me what it is I need to work on.
yeah, so the recap here is 5 things to clean up. Clean up old retirement accounts, refresh your financial plan, look back through those assumptions, see if there's any changes you need to make, check in on your risk, right? Maybe your risk tolerance has changed over the last group of years. Maybe your portfolio's changed. Update your tax planning at number 4. And then number 5, review your tax return for opportunities, probably maybe more efficient charitable giving or anything like that. So if you haven't already, it's a good time to schedule a financial checkup. So meeting with your financial advisor, or reaching out to another financial advisor like me that might be able to help update your plan and get you back on track for the year. We always joke clients don't like to meet with us in the summer. They got better things to do. So much like cleaning up your yard, getting it ready for the summer, let's take advantage of those things now. For those of you that are running through this, if you need a little bit of help, feel free to reach out. In the show notes, we'll have a link for a 15-minute call. Feel free to reach out and we can give you some tips to help you get everything cleaned up for the spring and get started off to a great summer.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks, Wendy. Thanks for everyone for listening. And remember to retire with intent so you can live your golden years with the happiness and excitement you deserve.